Okay, well, I can't believe I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to do this again. I never really understood the Old Testament. No joke. It was in the Revised Common Lectionary every week, so there were always readings from the Old Testament, and, I gave a nod to them when I had to. I liked preaching from the gospel text. I liked talking about Jesus and about sacraments, the Eucharist and baptism and all the tangible stuff. I liked talking about God's love and trying to include more and more people in what was going on around us. I always found the God of the Old Testament kind of whack, like kind of crazy. Until I had a theological student who I believe now is an Old Testament professor, if you can believe that. And he opened my eyes to seeing the deep wisdom found in these old Hebrew texts. I got a bit of a wake up last week when I looked at that Joseph text, and I still can't believe I posted a video about it. But we move on this week. I opened it again, which is why I'm recording this video. And it's not Genesis anymore. It's into Exodus. And as quickly as Joseph rises in the story and takes this prominent role and gets to welcome his brothers in, and now there are Hebrews in Egypt under the forbearance of Joseph, and all of a sudden a king comes along who doesn't know Joseph and doesn't give a shit, and Joseph's kicked to the curb as well as anyone who belonged to him. Yeah. So now we've got this text in Exodus about the early parts of slavery in Egypt. And I gotta tell you, the thing that struck me most about this text was the women. So they don't like the Hebrews. They want to control them. They want to kill a lot of the men, especially the babies. And so this text says that the Hebrew women learned to birth vigorously so the children would be born before the midwives would arrive and their children would be killed. This is the foreshadow of the birth of Moses, who gets sent down the river like in The Prince of Egypt. You've seen the Disney movie. I know you have. Don't pretend you haven't, because it changed me, truly. But this is that story. And it's not just about that one baby who became the great prophet who would stand before Pharaoh and tell him to let his people go, to plunge his staff. I don't know if it actually says that in the scripture, but he certainly does when it was Charlton Heston, right into the water, and the waves separate. But this child, this little baby, starts in a time after Moses.
I meant Joseph.
When his people are left for dead. They become slaves. They become controlled, manipulated, oppressed. But the women, they found a way. The more I read about history and culture, especially in places of poverty, I learn more and more about how women are the ones who carry the culture, the people, the society, the family on their shoulder. I think about my mom, barely out of her teenage years, a kid carrying her kid into a new country across the Atlantic Ocean. I think about this important week in history when Joe Biden was nominated to take on Donald Trump. Kamala Harris may have carried him across the line. I think about all the women in this passage from Exodus who allowed Moses to have a story. The women who carried the Joe Bidens, the David Giffins, the Moseses. The women who allowed us to have our story. To you, I give thanks.